So, you want to play the Flame Queen Willow. Well, there's a few things you'll need to know before you go out on a cooking spree. From Don't Starve to Don't Starve Together, strengths and weaknesses, today you are going to learn everything you need to know about Willow. Let's of course start with Don't Starve. Willow in Don't Starve has 150 health, 150 hunger, and 120 sanity. She also has a baseline damage multiplier of 1 times. She is a locked character, becoming playable after you have obtained 160 XP, or basically, survived at least 8 days and then either escaped via the teleportado or the other way. And unlike our boy Wilson, Willow has a starting item, that being her lighter. The lighter is Willow's bread and butter in Don't Starve. It's infinite light and infinite fire, which Willow obviously loves very much. While holding her lighter, she will gain 0.6 sanity a minute, which is very unnoticeable, so I'm not even sure why I mentioned it since this guide is supposed to be a, layman's term guide, but oh well, now you know. Enjoy. Other than her lighter, Willow's upsides are numerous, the biggest being that she is completely immune to fire damage. She can stand in blazing infernos, light objects in her inventory on fire, anything, and she won't take any damage at all. Willow also doesn't get that annoying flame effect that other characters get. Willow also really, and I mean really, likes fire, gaining 10 sanity per minute near every fire. The thing is, this effect stacks, and it has no cap. So if you were to say drop a stack of grass individually and light it up, that's 400 sanity per second. Get yourself an ice flingomatic and throw down a stack of flammable materials individually. That part's important, by the way. Don't drop whole stacks or you'll only benefit from the one fire, but with a couple individual items on the ground within range of the flingomatic, you will have a Willow certified sanity station. Simply light up the material and turn on the flingomatic, rinse and repeat until your sanity is good, which shouldn't take too long at all depending on the amount of stuff you chose to burn. If you want to maximize this, use something like boards, which burn for around 30 whole seconds, and count, before turning on the flingomatic. Unfortunately, due to her low sanity cap, you'll be visiting the station a lot, so a more mobile method is just to light objects in your inventory on fire. Yeah, bet you didn't know you could do this. Well, let's be fair, you probably didn't know because you can only do it in Don't Starve single player, not together. Just be careful because fire in your inventory is still spreadable. Now, we have to go over Willow's downsides. Besides the obvious fact that she has 120 sanity, which is some of the lowest in the game, she also has this super minor inconsequential perk of, so she just lights fire to stuff when she's below 50% sanity. Yeah, that's right. Anytime you are under 60 sanity with Willow, you have a chance to just spontaneously combust. Now, in normal situations, this isn't terrible, but if you're, say, I don't know, building a base, it's gonna burn at some point. Riding a boat and shipwrecked? Forget about it, it's gone, and so are you. I would argue this alone is one of the worst downsides in the entire game. You basically have to baby her sanity because losing 60 sanity isn't exactly that hard to do. And once you do, you become a ticking time bomb ready to blow up your base because Don't Starve single player has that ridiculous fire spread. It is so bad. Okay, this sanity fire isn't exactly random. I did manage to test it, and it seems the sanity fire will activate on an interval of around 2 minutes per fire. The problem is, this interval does not reset when you go over the halfway threshold, leading to moments where you can just go under half sanity and immediately light a sanity fire. It doesn't care if your sanity is 60 or 0, even with it not being quote-unquote random, it's still one of the worst downsides in the game. To combat this downside, you can do a few things. Tactic 1 is to always ensure you never go below 60 sanity. This is way easier said than done. While Willow may have some strong sanity regen options, that low max sanity really hurts her here. I wouldn't rely on this alone and instead use some other competitive measures in case you do go below that 50% threshold, such as spreading your base out. Creating natural fire breaks within your base can be a great way to mitigate spontaneous combustion concerns. Bonus points if you always have a flingomatic on standby as well. Is it annoying? Absolutely. I would say it's the most annoying thing in this game. You're basically playing with permanent wildfires enabled. But hey, you get an infinite lighter, so she's so worth it, right? No, she's not. I really wouldn't pick this character in single player. I'm sorry. Willow is exceptionally awful in Shipwrecked. So remember how I said that she can catch fire anywhere? Yeah, that includes your wooden boats, which is as devastating as it sounds. Also, it's very easy to get wet in Shipwrecked, which means huge sanity loss, and long travel times via boat become the ultimate gamble. The only world in which I think Willow has some kind of boon is Hamlet, since she can rush the pig ruins thanks to her lighter. Or, and I mean, get this, it's a crazy idea, just go grab some grass and twigs and make like 3 torches and you're good to go anyway. I don't know, man. Look, I know I'm a big defender of character downsides, but this is one that I'm genuinely glad was removed in Don't Starve Together. I would rate Willow from Don't Starve single player a solid 0 out of 10. She's my least favorite character to play as in single player, and coincidentally, I also hate the wildfires mechanic. Ironically, Willow's downside wouldn't be as bad if smoldering was a thing in single player, because then you would have enough time to react to it. Anyways, let's move on to Don't Starve Together Willow, who did, yeah, she did a full 180. She's probably like the most powerful character over here. Willow has the exact same stat line as her single player self, 150 health, 150 hunger, and 120 sanity. She retains her default damage multiplier, and like most Don't Starve Together characters, she is available right off the bat, since XP is not a feature in Don't Starve Together. Much like Wilson, Willow was also given a favorite food, hers being spicy chili, which will restore 15 more hunger for her than other characters. Again, I'm not sure how it does this, but this time I'm almost positive it's fire magic. Now onto her starting items. Willow again starts the game with her signature lighter, but this time it has been changed dramatically. Instead of being a worse torch with infinite durability, her lighter is now a worse torch with durability. At first you may think this is a horrible nerf, but it's really not. You'll see when we get to her skill tree segment. Willow's lighter was also buffed a little bit naturally, being allowed to cook food at the cost of 1 durability each. She still gains that inconsequential 0.6 sanity a minute while holding her lighter, and again, I don't know why I'm referencing it because it really doesn't matter, but yeah, there you go. At least you know. But Willow doesn't just get her lighter anymore. She now also starts with her signature teddy bear, Bernie. When Bernie is held, he will provide 60 cold insulation during winter, as well as 2 sanity a minute, which is far more noticeable. However, the biggest upside to Bernie is that when he's placed on the ground and Willow's sanity is below 20%, he will come to life, becoming giant and luring all nightmare creatures to him to fight. Only one Bernie can be giant at a time though. All other Bernies will just do a funky little dance to distract all the nightmare creatures. Bernie can be repaired by using a sewing kit, or if you have a Winona lurking on your server, trusty tape. If Bernie is lost somehow, a new one can be created using beard hair, beefalo wool, and silk. Funny enough, Bernie's name actually changes when he gets big, instead being called Bernie! Yes, in all caps like that. For the sake of this video being somewhat normal, I'm just gonna say Bernie, for both types. When Bernie is big, he can be calmed by simply, well, calming him. This is one of the things the game actually does tell you. Before we get into Willow's insane skill tree, let's talk a little bit about her base kit upsides and downsides, since this will make understanding some of her skills way easier. She retains her fire immunity from single player as well as her sanity gain from fire, which yes, can be cheesed much like single player, if not better because fire is more controllable in Don't Starve Together. Oh yeah, and not to mention that trees burn for like 1,000 times longer in Don't Starve Together for some reason. She also gains some other fire related upsides that are unique to Don't Starve Together. First up, any fuel that Willow adds to a fire will straight up just somehow be more fuel. How? I don't know, it just works. For example, here's a log added to a fire pit by Wilson, and here's a log added by Willow. Willow also cooks food significantly faster than other characters, and she finally has a natural resistance to overheating, gaining 30 free heat insulation, meaning farming sanity from fire is less dangerous. But be aware that resistance does not mean immunity. She still absolutely can overheat and can die from it. For some reason, Willow also has a wonky sanity modifier. And no, not wonky as in the character wonky, I mean it's just weird. So she'll gain 10% extra sanity from all sources, including her own fires, but this comes at the downside of 10% extra insanity from all sources, if that makes sense. I guess Clay's leaning heavily into the whole insane pyromaniac design. Let's look at her downsides. Alright, so first up, sanity fires are gone. Thank God. Straight up the worst mechanic in the game. But they had to add something to replace it, as besides her low sanity, she'll have no downsides otherwise. So what did our friends at Clay HQ add? Well, they doubled down on the whole fire lover, and made it a bunch of cold related debuffs. Willow naturally freezes faster with a built-in -30 cold insulation that cannot be removed. and when she does freeze, it hurts far worse. Not only does it drain health faster, but also incurs a sanity drain of around 2 per minute. Willow also has a downside that's only really significant for PvP players, since it won't really have an effect in-game, unless you're like tanking Deerclops or something. But Willow will freeze much faster than other characters. And guess what? That's pretty much it. If this was all Willow was in Don't Starve Together, this would still be a very powerful character, since her only downside takes place for like 15 days out of the standard 70-day year cycle. But guess what? We haven't even gotten to her skill tree yet. Well, strap in, ladies and gentlemen, because you're about to realize the true meaning of being absurdly overpowered. Let's first look at her lighter tree. Now, something you may notice is that her lighter tree comes with multiple branches that can be chosen right off the bat. We're going to first start with her burn branch. Controlled burning is the first skill in this branch, and it's a huge quality of life skill. If you've ever seen a fire that looks like this, it's because you have a Willow on your server. Not only does Willow now light these super special fires that don't spread, she also has 100% chance to light enemies on fire when she hits them with either a torch or a lighter. No more hoping RNG is on your side when trying to light an enemy up. It's straight up guaranteed now. Oh yeah, and enemies killed while on fire by this special new Willow fire will drop all of their items. Without it, some items would be replaced by ashes. But now, you get everything. And you don't even miss out on the ability to create forest fires because you can just stoke the flames if you really want some big spread action. For the cost of 1 perk point and so much gain, it's really a no-brainer to take this perk. And we still have the rest of the tree to go. The next one is another insanely good perk, but it's more of just a blanket numbers buff, so I won't talk about it too long. Burn duration does exactly as it says, causes creatures to burn for longer when set on fire. How much longer seems to depend. I found that spiders and other small guys burn for slightly longer, while big creatures like bosses burn for way longer with this skill. So it seems bigger entities are hurt more by this skill. Really, it's another must-have perk, especially once we get into the spells category. It also synergizes very well with the final perk of this branch, Fire Fighter, which is another short and sweet blanket buff. Basically, it makes your fires do much more damage to whatever you have lit up. This causes you to go over some very nice thresholds. It can also help tremendously for boss fights, as that extra DPS can mean a lot. Now it's time to go from one of Willow's strongest branches to one of her weakest, the Brighter Lighter branch. Brighter Lighter 1 and Brighter Lighter 2 are self-explanatory, and much like Wilson's torch rain skills, are really not necessary. Remember, the lighter has a very low range, so taking these perks basically puts you on par with a torch in terms of brightness. For the cost of 2 whole perk points, never take this perk. Just go get a lantern or moggles or something else. The only time I could see this perk being situationally useful is if you have friends who don't know how to craft their own torches and need to protect them from Charlie or something. But seriously, just teach them how to get some grass and twigs. I don't know. Alright, I've been trying to hold back my excitement, but now we get to move on to the branch that I love the most. It's the branch that makes Willow, well, a firebender essentially. It all starts with the Hungry Lighter skill. This allows Willow to become a firefighter essentially, giving her lighter the famous absorb mechanic that she'll use a lot going forward. When channeling this new power, her lighter will suck up all burning objects around her, including smoldering ones. So for the cost of 1 skill point, she becomes a mobile ice fling-o-matic. That's pretty epic. But oh my friend, it gets so much better. Because next down the line you have the Ember Tender skill. And this is not only a prequel for what's to come, but also something that comes with its own benefits. This gives Willow her very first firebending skill, Flame Cast, where she can set fire to anything within range of a small blast that she creates. Creatures set on fire this way will also take more damage from it, around 2 times the tick damage to be precise. This ability costs 1 Ember, which is a new item also unlocked by this skill. When creatures die while on fire, they will drop 1 Ember, with the exception of bosses who will drop significantly more. Embers can then be absorbed by Willow's lighter to go into her inventory and then be channeled into spells or used to refuel her lighter, which essentially removes the whole durability downside. Unfortunately, embers must be stored in Willow's primary inventory. You cannot place them in chests or in your backpack slots, and this to me is personally Willow's biggest weakness. But because embers stack to 40, it's really not that bad. As a fun side note, I know most of you Willow mains already know this, but I only learned it recently, so I'm going to share it with you guys now. Using Flamecast on a fire pit will cause it to instantly turn into a tier 4 fire. meaning one ember has the same fuel power as one whole board. So 1B equals one board. The lore implications of this are astronomical, I think. From here, we have 3 different perks to choose from. We'll go left to right, starting with one of Willow's best crowd control spells, Spontaneous Combustion. If you've ever seen a Willow cutting down bees like Swiss cheese, this is what she's using. This spell costs 4 embers and is by far the best for either farming more embers or dealing with crowds. Much like the Flamecast spell, this one causes enemies inflicted to take double damage, which again makes farming embers super easy. Next up we have what I personally think is her strongest spell, Fireball. So you know Starcaller staves, those ruins tier items that cause you to summon a small star that warms you up, gives you a boatload of sanity, and provides lots of light? Yeah, so Willow gets access to that for the low cost of 2 embers and technically 3 skill points. Willow's Fireball spell is functionally identical to the Dwarf Star, with only a few minor differences. The duration is only 1 in-game day versus the 3.5 in-game days that the Dwarf Star has, and the Fireball emits more of a yellow light rather than the soothing Walmart-esque light of the Dwarf Star. This skill can be used to set up sanity stations, and rather powerful ones at that, as each Fireball will provide a whopping 25 sanity a minute, with Willow gaining even more because, you know, fire. Oh yeah, and did I mention Willow can cast fireballs much faster than the Starcaller, and with no sanity penalty? And if you needed any more convincing, the spell also helps tremendously with the new boss, Warbot, and their heat-seeking missiles. Even if this was Willow's only good skill, she would honestly get S tier from me. But you know that's not the only one. To finish off the lighter tree, we have Burning Frenzy. And this skill is sort of another boring numbers skill, but it shouldn't be disregarded entirely since it can cause you to break some damage thresholds. Burning Frenzy when cast costs 2 embers and will cause Willow to deal 25% more damage to all burning enemies. This really isn't a lot of extra damage, but if you're doing a solo boss fight or just want that extra DPS, well, I mean, it's there. Most of the time I end up skipping this one though, so do with that what you will. Overall, this is probably one of the strongest trees in all of Don't Starve Together, an easy S tier. If this was Willow's only tree, she would still be an insanely powerful character. Now we're moving on to the Bernie tree, and you can kind of tell that Clay was kind of running out of steam when they got to this one since it's mostly just numbers and repeats. But that doesn't mean they are useless. You have 3 branches available off the bat, and we'll start with the Patch Up branch. Patch Up 1 gives Bernie a 1 HP per second health regen. Yeah, that's painfully slow, but any regen is better than no regen, right? Patch Up 2 increases Bernie's newfound regen by a whopping, you guessed it, 1 HP per second. Now 2 HP per second, again while painfully slow, especially for Bernie who's a beast with 2,000 health points, is still better. But let's go ahead and move over to the branch that I personally think is the best of these early Bernie skills, the Sanity branch. Barely Sane 1 is short, simple, and sweet. Bernie becomes animated and large whenever Willow is at 30% sanity instead of 20%. This means that Bernie will now come to your aid before nightmare creatures actually attack you. That's nice. Barely Sane 2 causes this effect to be even greater, having Bernie become large at 50% sanity. But all of that is dwarfed by Bernie's Hot-Headed skill. This is essentially Barely Sane 3, but Clay decided to give it a fancy name for whatever reason. This skill will cause Bernie to animate and become large whenever there is a hostile shadow or lunar aligned mob, regardless of how sane Willow may be. This skill branch is actually surprisingly good, especially if you want to utilize Bernie for extra DPS in boss fights. It's not entirely necessary though. Moving on to the last of the early Bernie skill branches, we have the Accelerant branch. Here's Bernie with default movement speed. Here's Accelerant 1, and here's Accelerant 2. I don't think I need to say this, but this one really can be skipped. Yeah, having a faster large Bernie can mean he catches up to you faster, but you can always just put him in your inventory. It's like one of his base mechanics. But hey, if any of you Willow players have actually found a use for this branch, please let me know because I genuinely can't see any reason for someone to spend any points on this branch. Even if you're going for a full Bernie build, the use cases are just so bad because Bernie doesn't even attempt to kite enemies, so yeah, I don't know. I just know someone at Clay was trying to find some filler skills to add to this branch because like there's no way that they actually just came up with movement speed. It's so weird and... Okay, too much time spent on one thing, let's move on. Now we can move on to the late Bernie skill branches. These require you to have a certain amount of the previous skills unlocked, starting with the Tough Stuffing branch. Anybody remember Tough Puppy? That show was a banger when I was a wee lad. Anyways, off topic and stupid. Tough Stuffing requires you to have spent 4 points into Bernie's skills to unlock, and Tough Stuffing 1 increases Bernie's health by 300, for a total of 2,300. Tough Stuffing 2 increases Bernie's health by another 300, for a total of 2,600. The buffs are small, but I would rather have this than the little extra speed from the Accelerant branch. And 600 health is not something to scoff at. That's a level 3 Abigail right there. Moving on to the final Bernie skill, the Burning Bernie skill. This skill requires you to spend a whopping 8 points in the Bernie tree. For reference, this tree only has 9 skills available, not including this one. So you'll need all but one. So what do you get for your devotion to Bernie? Well, if you set Bernie on fire, which can be done by obvious methods, it will give him a fiery aura for 20 seconds, cause him to emit light, and give him a relatively powerful Thorns effect that causes enemies to take 50 damage a hit with no cooldown. I have a very hard time justifying this perk because you'll be giving up some lighter skills which are arguably way better, but I can see the benefits. This will basically turn Bernie into a crowd control beast as long as you keep him fired up. 50 damage is quite a bit. That's the same amount of damage a Terror Beak does. For enemies that rapidly attack, this can do quite a bit of damage. I wanted to test if this skill could have any merit for some serious boss battles, and this was the result. Hello everybody, we're gonna test out if the Burning Bernie skill is actually viable. Now, I know in my voiceover I said I wanted to test it with a bunch of bosses, but I want to see just how good it is at like dealing with shadow creatures, because the Thorns effect might be pretty crazy when it comes to shadow creatures. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna drop Bernie here, and Bernie's not gonna be active because we do have the Bernie skills. In fact, I'll just go ahead and grab all of them real quick. I'm not gonna do the affinities for this test. We're just gonna do a pure Bernie branch type deal. You're probably gonna have most of these if you have Burning Bernie anyway, because you need to have at least 8 Bernie skills to unlock this thing. Let's say you're in a public server, right? You have like 6 other people. Everybody's insane. There's a good chance you're gonna get up to like 10 Terror Beaks, right? So let's see if Burning Bernie can deal with 10 Terror Beaks. Oh my god, that is terrifying. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna light Bernie up, and let's just see how Bernie manages to handle these guys. So you'll notice, yeah, it's scary, but it seems to be... No, Bernie gets shredded. Oh god. Oh, and then I die. Okay, so Bernie can't handle that. Alright, what I've given myself here is a tier 2 Shadow Knight. So this is probably the weakest shadow boss that I can think of. That would be... Hey, get out of here. You're not supposed to be here. Alright, this is just between Bernie and you. So what we're going to do is I do have God mode on so I don't get killed this time. We're going to test out if Burning Bernie can do anything to the Shadow Knight. So let's just go ahead and drop Bernie here and get ready to light Bernie up. There you go, Bernie. Bernie is going. So Bernie does 100 and... what is that? No, 50 damage. But the Shadow Knight also does. Yeah, look at that. You can see the health bar on the top there. So 50 per hit from Bernie. Shadow Knight does 50 to themselves as well, which is to be expected. That's part of the perk. Let's see if Bernie can defeat the Shadow Knight. Finish your dinner. Perfect. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and set it to daytime real quick, and we're going to see... We're gonna see how much health Bernie wow! Bernie lost like no health at all from that. So down to 74%. Now, here's the big test. Level 3 Shadow Bishop. So I think this might be kind of a wash, let's be real. I guarantee you he's probably not gonna take any damage through the bat phase. Oh yeah, here we go. No, yeah, he takes no damage through the bat phase. So yeah, no, that's a bust. Bernie will die. I wonder how much damage that one bat attack did. Actually. Yeah, no, that would have killed him. Honestly, do I think Burning Bernie's worth it? The only time I think it would be worth it is when you're getting grouped up by mobs I mean, I guess Splumunkies, Shadow Splumunkies maybe, but at that point you're playing Willow, just use Combustion. It's like there's no reason I could think of to take this over the lighter skills. I'm sorry, but I see no reason to take Burning Bernie over the lighter skills. As much as Bernie's cool, and I wish that he was better, I can't. Also, these buzzards are being loud, so let's go back to voiceover me. Now, after that super reasonable test, let's move on to Willow's final tree, her affinity tree. Unlike Wilson, Willow actually has 2 affinity skills per side, and she can either pledge herself and Bernie to Wagstaff, or to Charlie. Pledging herself to Charlie will grant her access to the Shadow Flame spell. This spell costs 5 embers and will send out 5 homing missiles that deal a whopping 150 damage each. The flames also deal 10% more damage to lunar aligned enemies. To take this skill, you must have spent 7 points in the lighter tree, defeated the Ancient Fuel Weaver at least once on your world, and have no lunar skills. I said defeat the Ancient Fuel Weaver once because yes, you can utilize this skill in a pre-Fuel Weaver world. The same can be done with all affinity skills from all characters. Willow in particular benefits the most though, since her affinity skills are downright busted and will make early game a breeze. Willow's other shadow skill is Shadow Bernie. Taking this skill will cause Bernie to gain 10% less damage from shadow aligned creatures and deal 10% more damage to lunar aligned creatures. This also gives Bernie some planar armor, which is very rare in Don't Starve Together, causing mobs that do planar damage, like most endgame bosses, to do 15 less to him. Bernie will also himself deal 5 planar damage. Planar is very weird and complicated when it comes to armor and whatnot, so just think of planar damage as armor piercing damage. And yes, planar damage and armor is the same between Shadow and Lunar, there is no difference, except for when it's made obvious. What about the lunar side? Well, here's where Willow's most infamous skill is, especially in the PvP scene, Lunar Fire Razor. This gives Willow access to the Lunar Flame skill, which costs her 5 embers, and it's a channeling skill, meaning that she will be locked into an animation for its entire duration. But this skill is so fun. You basically get a cold flame flamethrower, as you shoot out a massive line of flames that deal 50 damage per tick, and this flame will deal 10% extra damage to shadow aligned creatures. Now yes, due to the fact that you are locked in an animation, this skill is arguably worse than Shadow Flames unless you are dealing with large swarms, since Shadow Flames has a max of 5 targets. But if you're looking to farm Nightmare Fuel, then this skill theoretically could be better because of that extra damage to shadow aligned mobs, and I don't even know if Shadow Flames can target shadow mobs. I forgot to test that before I made this video, but anyways, regardless, I don't know why you'd be using Shadow Flames on shadow mobs. If you're looking for PvP, then this skill is absolutely busted. Probably the biggest downside to choosing Lunar Flames though is that this is a channeling spell, which means you can be interrupted, unlike Shadow Flames. As a fun fact, both Lunar and Shadow spells do the same amount of damage, but Shadow Flames are more likely to hit all of its shots since they are homing missiles. Oh yeah, and both skills are boosted by the Burning Frenzy skill, at least the non-planar damage is. Yeah, both these skills have a weird amount of planar damage. I believe it's like 60% of the damage is planar damage, which is good, but also kind of weird. Again, I still don't properly understand planar stuff, but yeah, it's there. It's not really that noticeable. Last but not least, we have Lunar Bernie. I could tell you everything about him, but he's literally just the opposite of Shadow Bernie in every way, while being the same when it comes to the planar defense and attack. Because planar isn't specific for Shadow or Lunar, it's just a different type of damage. Yeah, I know, it's weird. And there you have it, the deep dive into Willow's skill tree. Now it's time for me to give my own personal tips and tricks to surviving as Willow. First off, always, and I mean always, carry nearly a stack of embers on you. Having a pocket dwarf star can save you in a battle, being able to use spontaneous combustion can also save you if you start to get swarmed, and speaking of combusting, my second tip for you would be to always use fire. A lot. Many players may be scared of fire since they either come from solo Don't Starve where fire is ridiculous, or they just assume that fire is bad, but in Don't Starve, mobs on fires won't actually attack you, causing you to make certain enemies like Clockworks stun lockable. Yes, you heard me right, you can go into the ruins with nothing but your lighter and come out unscathed. It's really hard, but you could. I wish I was joking, but seriously, use fire more. Now, conversely, if you are playing with friends and are all fighting a boss together, you should probably use fire less. First off, bosses don't have the same stun lock ability and won't care that you set them on fire. The only thing this will do is cause your friends to take fire damage for a very small bleed effect. You can counter this by having a Wigfrid with a fireproof falsetto on your team, but overall it's just more worth it to blast the boss with lunar or shadow flames while your team gets in there and does some damage. Make no mistake though, if you are alone, set that boss on fire. You'll need the extra DPS. Just to recap, if you're alone or you're dealing with regular mobs, set them on fire. If you're together and fighting a boss, don't set it on fire. Got it? Good. Willow synergizes very well with Wickerbottom, Maxwell, or really anybody that has insanity as their worst downside. Because Bernie doesn't just attack Willow's demons, he will help her friends as well. Wickerbottom can keep reading her books with no struggles, and Maxwell can keep caging during boss fights with no struggles as well. Now it's time for the very special part of the video where I share my personal favorite skill tree build with you. And here it is. This utilizes Lunar Bernie and Willow, and I do think that Lunar Bernie is stronger than Shadow Bernie personally, since usually Bernie's only going to be fighting shadow creatures anyway, and Lunar Flames just looks so much cooler. But you can swap these two out however you like. This build forgoes Burning Frenzy too because I just can't be bothered to use it. Anyways, that's officially all I have to say about Willow. I hope you guys enjoyed the Ultimate Willow guide. As I stated before, yeah, these guides are going to take a while. Hell, they may even be longer than some of my full year survival guides, because Clay has added so much nuance to each character over the years. Next, we're gonna look at Wolfgang, who should be in theory shorter since his tree is boring, but he's still a character and we must go over him. Anyways, I'm gonna go back to blasting bosses with this ridiculously overpowered character. See you in the next one, everyone.